Welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, where today we will interview Most Worshipful Brother Kenneth M. Christofferson, Grand Master of British Columbia and Yukon.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our thoughts and opinions are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions via our website at theworkingtoolspodcast.com.
Today on the Working Tools Podcast, we have our usual gang of hosts, Very Worshipful Brother David Colbeth, who's from King Solomon Lodge number 60 in Auburn, Washington. Very Worshipful Brother Stephen Chung from Prince Charles number 153 in Kelowna, BC. Brother Craig Graham from Kalamalka Lodge number 160 in Vernon, British Columbia. And I'm Matt Appel from Mill Creek number 243, and we meet in Montlake Terrace, Washington. And today we are honored to have with us Most Worshipful Brother Kenneth M. Christofferson, Grand Master of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of British Columbia and Yukon, Ancient, Free, and Accepted Masons. Most Worshipful Sir, thank you for being on the show today.
My pleasure, Matt.
So, as is our usual method when we do these interviews, we generally start off with, how did you become a Mason? What was your path to becoming in the Grand East where you are now?
Well, I worked pretty hard in the early days, raising kids and doing all those things that people do. And in my mid-30s, I thought, there's got to be something more for me. And I had studied Joseph Campbell and loved Norse mythology. And so my mind was open to that sort of thing. And then I attended my wife's father's funeral. It was a Masonic funeral. And I was very much taken by the outpouring of brotherly love and respect. And that inspired me to look into Freemasonry. And I did. And a year later, I was made a Mason, and I've never looked back. It's fulfilled all those expectations that I had. And that's how I got to be a Freemason.
That's a relatively common story. The Masonic funeral is definitely an opportunity for lodges to, I don't know if to show themselves off is a great term for something that happens at a funeral, but to show to the outside world a little bit of Masonry that they don't otherwise get to see.
And to show people that we still exist. That's the...
Were you were a working man then?
Oh yeah, I started as a welder and worked my way up through the trades into management. And then at that point, I was a middle manager in the engineering construction field. We were building major projects in Alberta and Eastern Canada. And yeah, so it was a good thing for me. I always felt like it was something for me. You go out and you work your heart out. And my wife felt the same way, by the way. You work your heart out, you do the best you can. But this was a time for me, time for reflection, time for being with brothers, time to build that other part of your life that you don't get from just working. And I think that's an important message, that it's not a job, it's not a something that you have to do. It's for you. And my wife would, because she comes from a Masonic family, was always extremely supportive of that, and that was important to me, and it always has been. And that's a message I'd like to get out to the younger fellas.
So is that, you said it was both reflective time for you and that it was sort of a time for fraternalism with other brothers. Was that, I guess, were those the two main things that kept you with it? Was that the big draw for you as far as?
Well, I also became a stakeholder in the craft. When I joined the lodge, any spare time I had, and I made spare time to contribute to the building of the lodge building. Went into the officers' chairs very quickly because I wanted to be part of something more than just work, the industrial side of the world. And it gave me that time to be proud of the lodge, Beaumont 181 in Bowness, Alberta, and be part of the going through the degrees, but then after finishing the degrees, being part of helping others coming through the degrees. It was very much a sense of service, and not the same kind of service you do at work, but service for the greater good. And I felt really good about that, and it inspired me to do more. I think that's the essence of the craft, is that it gives you the opportunity to be bigger than you otherwise would have been, to serve more than you otherwise could have served. And that was an inspiration and continues to be an inspiration for me.
Excellent. So are you still a member of your lodge back in Alberta, or?
The lodge back in Alberta, sadly, turned in its charter. The membership just got too small. And I feel bad about that, because that was the story I was telling about being the senior warden and then going overseas. I was one of the key players that went overseas and left the lodge, and several others did at the same time, and that caused the lodge to not be able to carry on. And it's one of my greatest disappointments.
Yeah, we suffer from that here frequently. Brothers will get a job up north or in Alberta and leave for work reasons, and so we can relate to that. It makes it very challenging on a lodge to keep filling holes.
Yeah, it's one of our realities that we have to deal with, and it's a tricky one.
So you said you were involved with the buildings. I know in your address that I said we weren't going to do this, but here I am doing it. I know in your address you had talked about the state of Masonic buildings being important to the craft as a whole. I know I've heard people say similar things down here south of the border. Is that that's just something you've noticed in your travels through the territory, or the territory that the Grand Lodge covers, or?
Yeah, we have a very extensive jurisdiction, as you know. It's really spread out. But there's a number of parts to the Masonic building. First off, we have, if it's in a metropolitan area, often if a lodge closes, it can go to another building. But out in the country lodges, if a lodge closes, we lose Freemasonry in that part of the jurisdiction. So it's extremely important to me that we think of these buildings strategically. We think of them as a geographic coverage, and there's the thing about the Masonic buildings is, if you're spending all your time trying to save the building, you're not spending enough time on Freemasonry. So we need to make these buildings sustainable, and that typically requires a revenue stream. So we need to go through our buildings, and we're doing that now. We're in the process of going through the buildings and trying to determine how to create a revenue stream in the buildings. There's a number of different ways. Maybe it's moving the building, maybe it's changing locations, maybe it's a complex question, and it's different for every situation. But we need to get to the point, and it's our goal in this jurisdiction, to get to the point where we have financially sustainable lodge buildings, so we can practice Freemasonry in those lodge buildings, and we can practice good Freemasonry. It's a wonderful thing to have socials for the sake of socials. It's another thing to have socials for the sake of trying to save the lodge building. So that's where we're going. That's in our strategic plan, is to try to develop these buildings. And we've got about 80 buildings in our jurisdiction. And we've probably got about 40 of them that need to be reconsidered, and probably 20 of them that need help right now. So that's where we're going. That's what we're focused on. That is my driving ambition with respect to buildings, is to save every building that needs to be saved so we can keep Freemasonry in that geographic catch basin.
I think that's such an amazing effort to support, and I'm hearing such great things about having that building committee out there, and I'm hoping that most of the jurisdiction has got the message that they're there and they can actually help, because there's a lot of buildings that didn't plan a revenue stream, and now they have somebody to help them think outside the box. And yeah, whether it's hall rentals or whatever, it needs to happen. So I'm glad there's a method to support that. And but I have heard very positive things out of the people that have been dealing with the building committee so far. So it's awesome.
Well, even beyond the building committee, we're in the throes of creating another building fund. We have some very wealthy building societies that have extra cash, and we're creating a fund that allows them, now they're going to get reimbursed for their funds, that's not in the question, but allows them to put funds into this building society for the sake of helping lodges develop a sustainability plan. And that can be as easy as putting a kitchen in their lodge, a commercial kitchen that they can rent out, or renting part of their property, or changing to another location that has a building that has a revenue stream. So there's a lot of moving parts to it, but nevertheless, I'm absolutely convinced that within 10 years, we can change the face of our Masonic buildings in BC and Yukon.
Yeah, we have a similar committee down here, which I should shut up and let David talk about, because there is you're still on the real estate advisory committee, correct? Yeah, so we have an advisory committee that is helping lodges with similar problems, because I know my lodge we had a 3-story brick building. It was the second oldest building in town, and they sold it right before I joined, and it was a similar story. It was a 3-story brick building with no retail space or anything like that. It was all dedicated to masonry, and they just couldn't keep it up and pay the taxes, etc. So it's
sure.
Now we meet in the Nile, in the shrine building, the local shrine building.
Yeah, we need to get out ahead of it, Matt. What we found is that in the last number of years, we've been reactive. We need to get proactive. We need to get out and do studies on these buildings. We need to look for the opportunities. And I've mobilized my principal officers, grand officers, to go out and reach out with the DDGMs to these situations and create a plan for each building. And then we call in the building committee to give us advice. We have a very qualified building committee with a lot of various expertise in it. So what we need to do is identify the demand, create the desire to change, and then support them with the building committee. And that's the path that we're on right now. Just started this year.
Yeah, the desire to change can certainly be a sticking point. A lot of times getting the brothers to well, frankly, face reality can be the tough bit.
It's the toughest. It's the biggest piece. We've got lodge reforms. We've got a lot of things going on, but if you just can't make any progress unless you can build a relationship with the lodge or the lodge building owners and have them believe that we can do something together. Our Grand Lodge, we worked on this for a number of years, has tried very hard not to be top down, but bottom up. Get to the grassroots, get the buy-in, and then we can start to make some progress.
Yeah, real estate can be a difficult issue especially amongst folks that aren't real estate savvy. A lot of lodges didn't have that focus or the ability, and it was more of a community center idea where the Masons could come together in a central place, but there wasn't a lot of forethought on how, like you said, sustainability necessarily. And to their credit, though, membership was significantly different state when most of these buildings were established. But it's an interesting story. I've asked a lot of questions over my 17 years as a Mason about it, and there's still no specific answer other than our mantra is no single-use buildings. A Mason should never own or be part of a single-use building. But I'll be curious to learn more. I like to steal ideas instead of creating my own, as all the guys know and people that listen. And so I'll be curious to hear more about your building society program. We kind of have something a little bit through our Grand Lodge finance, in that there is some monies that can be lent with a proof of repayment process, loose sometimes as it is, but it is available to our lodges or our temples, the temple associations, for funds for remodels and things like that. But I'm curious to see. I know you've done an amazing thing with your Grand Lodge building, essentially the Freemasons Hall there in the mainland, I guess you would call it. And so it's really, really beautiful. So it's a neat partnership, but a unique opportunity that was created and was taken advantage of. So I'd be curious to hear more about that building society. But I'm curious, the rest of your message, though, you talked a lot about different goals and ideas. And so are there any particular goals that you're passionate about that you want to achieve during your year here, or see brought forward or began or continued or?
Yeah, there is. I'm pretty clear in my mind on what I'm trying to accomplish. And I've worked very hard with the Grand Line so that it's not a one-year program. So we've worked hard to develop a program that all three principal officers are bought into. So it's a sustainable program. We've got about a third of our lodges are doing very well. I'm talking lodges now, not lodge buildings. And a third of our lodges are doing okay. But probably a third or maybe 20% of our lodges are in trouble. And again, I've mobilized the Grand Line to go out and gain the trust of those lodges so that we can help them. We have a substantial set of lodge improvement programs it's hard to debate whether they're good or they're not good. They're good. If you do them, you're going to get some value from them. So we've got a good program in place. Now it's back to that same question we just talked about, is that how do you gain the trust for them to engage the programs? So what I've done, as I said, I've engaged the principal officers and the DDGMs, District Deputy Grandmasters, to go out and develop the trust. And we have a number of committees, same as you do, for different elements of the puzzle. And I've said to them, don't develop anything new this year. We got enough. Let's make what we got work. So the principal officer and the DDGMs goes out and identifies the needs, establishes the trust so that they'll use these programs. And then the committees, under the direction of the committee chair, will put together a small team to go out and help that individual lodge. And every case is different. So it's a hands-on work with the lodge for as many years as it takes to improve their ritual, improve their business meetings, improve their competency in the officers line, whatever it takes to rebuild that lodge so it can sustain its own Freemasonry. And that may require calling in resources from other districts to help them improve their ritual until they can get up and fly it on their own. That may include bringing in lodge officers to help them get a proper lodge meeting working. So it's a support program. We don't expect that it's going to happen in a year. We expect to repair a lodge is probably going to take 2 or 3 years. There's many different reasons for a lodge getting to where it got to. Maybe it's aged out. Maybe it doesn't have any presence in the community, so it's not drawing in new Masons. Maybe it just has lost its way in the ritual. And all of those things need to be fixed before they can practice true Freemasonry in their lodge. So that's one of my goals. Another goal is we've had a very acrimonious trial process. I want to change the trial process, and we're making very good progress on it already, to have a Masonic-based trial process. I want most or all of the complaints dealt with brother to brother. And if they can't do that, then it goes to mediation. And the last stop is a trial. And it has to be the last stop because it's tearing the craft apart, as it is, I'm sure, in Washington. It has a lot of negative impacts. There's too much oxygen being spent on this stuff. We need to spend more time on Freemasonry than complaints. I guess we got a couple other bits and pieces. It's in my paper, but those are the 3 major ones. And the reason that the complaints process is so important is because it's getting in the way of harmony. And if we can't have harmony, we can't have Freemasonry. It's that simple. It's that simple. If we can't have trusted relationships, we can't have Freemasonry. It's that simple. We have to protect those things like they're jewels of the crown. We have to hold on to those things, promote them, and care for them. That's our job. Our Constitution, the purpose of Grand Lodge is to create perfect harmony and welfare amongst the craft. The purpose of the Grand Master is to promote and create direction and vision to accomplish that purpose. So there's no lack of clarity on this, but sometimes we lose our focus.
In BC, are the trials run by the Grand Lodge or by the individual lodges?
First stop, the individual lodge is supposed to try to resolve its issues. The second stop is it goes to the Grand Secretary, and in consultation with the Grand Master, is to determine whether it should go to mediation. We have a mediation commission or committee, and that's the next step. And if the Grand Master believes that it should go past that, then it goes to the Trial Commission, and the Trial Commission is an independent body that the Grand Master has no influence on by design. And then we have the trial. And if it goes to appeal, which one just did, then the Grand Master and the Deputy Grand Master and another officer chosen by the Grand Master hear the appeal, and that decision is final.
Interesting. Yeah, the mediation step sounds interesting. I guess that's for mostly when you have a dispute between 2 brothers or 2 groups of brothers.
Any dispute, any complaint.
Interesting.
We kind of did
because
that
there's always people involved. It's always people.
If we could just get rid of that human element, right?
I always loved the statement when I was in industry, management would be easy if it wasn't for people.
I've heard more than one Mason described as that they love masonry but don't like Masons. So
So I think the message of harmony, and I know that Roger feels the same way. I know his theme this year, and I think it's important that we recognize that we all have to protect and promote harmony. And anything that you do as an individual is not more important than harmony in the craft. If you think it is, you should maybe reconsider whether you should be a Freemason or not.
you're here. And I frankly, I can't think of a better place to wind up this episode than that declaration is so
I didn't get it. I didn't take the time to say to my brothers in Washington, I want to pass greetings to my brothers in Washington, particularly Most Worshipful Brother Nelson and his dear wife Martha. They're very dear friends of ours. And now that I have the opportunity on the screen, I want to pass those greetings if I could.
sir, thank you. And with that, I want to first of all thank you, Most Worshipful, for being on the show this evening. It was good to have you here. Thank you. And on behalf of myself and David and Craig and Stephen, thank you all for listening to the Working Tools Podcast. Goodbye.